Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Here you're looking at my Ruger LCP. I've previously done a review on this, and this is just a follow-up video. So I've now got about 500 rounds through this particular pistol. I've owned it now for about 6 months and carried it most days. So I've just got a little bit of a follow-up review where I'll go over some of the main takeaways from now having owned it a little bit longer. First thing is we'll just make sure there's no rounds in the chamber and whatnot. So, okay, so you can see there's no ammo inside of it. So yeah, like I said, I've owned this now for a few months after I had done that initial review and just wanted to share some follow-up thoughts after having put some additional rounds through it. So I've put about 200 more rounds through it since that initial review. I know that's still not a ton, but I think for these tiny little concealed carry pistols, it's pretty rare for most people to even put more than like a box or two through them, to be honest. I think the main takeaways I've got kind of revolve around the sights, a few failures to feed, and I think besides that, that's the main things. So the first thing that I'll point out is when I started to put more groups down on paper, I was realizing that I was way over on the basically my bullets were hitting to the left side of where I needed them to go. So I had to adjust the rear sights. You can kind of see, it's kind of blurry right now, but you can see a little bit in terms of like where this rear sight's at has now been shifted over to the right to try to adjust for where those bolts were hitting. One thing I'll say is I've got some apprentice marks over here on the left side of the sight now. That's basically from just setting the slide up on a table and just kind of pounding on it and trying to shift it over, and that did not work well. So if you do adjust it, make sure you put the slide inside of a vise, and it really doesn't take much force after that to adjust where the sight's at. It's a bit better now in terms of where the bullets are hitting relative to my point of aim, but it's still a little bit shifted over. But I'd rather not have like a snag point on the sights in terms of pulling it out of my pocket or whatnot, as opposed to having the sights dead on. So I think that's the first thing that I'll point out is this is an adjustment that I've had to make. One thing I will say is for some other people that have shot this pistol, I think they've had less of a problem than I have, so it could just be how I'm holding it and how I'm aligning these particular sights. But I think in general, from the people that have shot it, we have noticed that the bullets tend to go over to the left side of where you're aiming. So that's the first thing I'll point out. The second thing is I don't know if it'd really be called a failure to feed, but I've had a few instances where you'll be shooting and then all of a sudden the next round won't go up into the chamber. So basically you'll pull the trigger, it'll just go click. And when you rack the slide back, there's no round inside of the chamber. So I guess the slide basically the slide moved faster than the next bullet was able to go up to where it could be pushed into the chamber. I think that could be associated with limp wristing, so maybe that's the reason. It seems like it's very hit or miss in terms of that being a problem for some people or not. I think the last 100 rounds I haven't had an issue with that, but the previous 100 rounds I had two issues. So to me, it's not a big hindrance in terms of a reason I wouldn't carry this. But it is just something to note, and I'm curious if anybody else has that problem. Please leave a comment down below. Be nice to hear. But it hasn't been like a major issue, so that's been good. The other thing is I colored the rear of the hammer as well. You can kind of see the red right there. It's just like an indicator to tell me if the hammer's back or not. So if it's in the downwards position, I'll pull the trigger. If it's in the downwards position, you obviously can't see the red there. And then when you rack it, then you can see the red shows up. So that's just something where I basically just took the firearm apart. I can actually show that as well. But I basically just took the firearm apart, and then I just cleaned up the hammer really well with some acetone. Here, I'll take it off just so you guys can see it. But yeah, like I was saying, I basically just clean up the hammer real well. Stick it up in this position. Clean up the top of the hammer really well, and then I just use some like red automotive paint. And this is after putting, I think, 200 rounds through it. I still haven't seen any chipping or anything like that. So if you're worried about it, I guess, breaking off over time, that's not been a problem from my side. But this has been nice for me just when I'm, loading it up in the morning. I basically a sanity check in addition to a press check or something like that. And that way it tells me, okay, yeah, I have racked it back and there could be a round inside the chamber. But of course, this is not like a loaded chamber indicator. This is just to tell you that the slide has been racked back. So that's one other modification that I've done. And then, so I think that's about it for the overall additional thoughts that I've got for this gun up to this point in time. I think in hindsight, having bought this gun for like $250, none of these issues to me are massive. And I think whenever you buy a really small firearm, typically you're going to have to compromise somewhere. So I think, all in all, I would still say that it's been a great purchase, and I've been very pleased with it. But I would say that these are some things you might have to look out for. But yeah, if you guys have any additional questions or thoughts, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Bye.